Welcome back to a very special episode of MedCreator 101, the go-to podcast for all things social for HCPs. I'm Mimi Banks, founder of MB Social, and I'm here with Dr. Dustin Portela.
Hey, we know that you've been following along with this over the course of the year, and we want to thank you for joining us on this journey of MedCreator. We've had so much fun sharing these conversations with you, and we hope that we've inspired you to get more active on social media. To wrap up 2025, we want to share with you some of our favorite moments from the podcast, some of the most high-yield, punchy interviews that we've had that can really help you, just to serve as a reminder, to give you a little inspiration, or to teach you some unique tips and tricks to help you on your social media journey. Because there's a community of people out there who need your voice, and we want to share these high-yield tips and tricks that we gathered on the podcast this year. So enjoy this little collaboration as we wrap up 2025, and we're so excited to bring you a bunch of new content in 2026. Please follow us on MedCreator 101 on Instagram, and if you have questions, shoot them to us there. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us on this journey. And I wanted you to elaborate on what does it mean to become a category of one, and how does a creator aim for that?
Becoming a category of one means that you are no longer competing in a niche. You are now your own niche. You are now your own category. So to be a category of one is a very privileged position in the market. It means that you've fully differentiated yourself. You have full clarity about who you are and what you do. And for that reason, your audience sees you as a category of one as well, meaning that they don't see alternatives to you. They just see you. And this leads to a number of benefits. You know, if you're someone who offers services, you don't get stuck in that race to the bottom with pricing, because you go, well, this is me. This is exactly the service I offer. And if you want this specialized service, you can pay the rate that I'm saying that you should pay. It comes down to, you know, I know that people watch my content and they don't see an alternative to my content. There aren't other channels that they go to for my exact kind of content, because they say, well, she's the only one who's really doing this in the way that she's doing this. So all in all, a category of one, I had an ex-client explain it like this. He said, it felt like I was in bumper to bumper traffic trying to get somewhere. And now suddenly I see the open lane and I can just speed right through. It really feels like you're not running the race that everyone else is running anymore. That's what it is to be a category of one.
Yeah, and I agree with you. There's a lot of creators that I will watch on YouTube, but they're, talking about kind of base level YouTube strategy, writing hooks, doing all these things. But that's why your content resonated with me so much, is I didn't get that kind of information from anybody else that was digging behind the meaning of what brands and creators are doing to really stand out. And the subtle things that make somebody the success that they are, talking about brands like Nike or personalities like Taylor Swift, and seeing the psychology tips and tricks that they employ to become one of a kind. Absolutely.
Yeah, appreciate that. I mean, it's taken a long time for me. Like the frameworks that I help creators with now, these are things that I wish that I had, 5 years ago, and it wouldn't have taken me as long. But it's an exciting feeling once you get to that place where you go, oh, I'm locked in, I'm clarified, I get it. And your audience starts to reflect that back to you. That's very exciting.
I would like to think that this is some of our goal, to be honest, with MedCreator 101, is to be able to provide that level of the aha moment or the intel that other healthcare professionals need, because this is not something that's taught in med school.
When it comes to those healthcare professionals, a lot of us have a very similar background. We went to undergrad, we went to med school, we got this knowledge and expertise, we did a residency. We're very driven by scientific facts. When we present content, we want to stick to the data. Given that many healthcare professionals are coming from the same background, what kind of things do you think that creators in the healthcare space can do to kind of differentiate themselves without giving away your whole course? But how do they differentiate themselves without feeling like they're performing or not being themselves?
Yeah, I love this question. And it's especially interesting because you are talking about a group of people that come from the same professional background. And what you can use to differentiate yourself in that case is who you are, your personality. I think a lot of the time when people start creating content, they do one of two things. They look at the category leader and they try to copy that category leader in terms of their exact content style, their exact tone of voice, everything down to a T. Or they try and be very informational. And, you hear this a lot, value, which is important. You do want to make your audience feel like they're receiving value, but the value has to be wrapped up in who you are, in your tone of voice, in your beliefs. So what I love to do with creators is help them build a belief-based content strategy, which means that you are delivering all of the value and your expertise in a professional sense, but you're also delivering who you are wrapped up in that. So your brand themes, your brand beliefs, your tone of voice, meaning that you've defined the feeling that you give people when they hear you speak. You know, naturally, everyone evokes a different feeling in someone. So if I went to a party and I spoke to one person, they'd evoke a different feeling in me than if I spoke to another person. And if you can figure out what that feeling is and then lean into that, that is when you start to really become a category of one, build your special brand, and be that person with no alternative.
I think that's a very key takeaway from this episode for our listeners is that if you just want to get on and you want to present facts and data and you're not bringing in your personality or your unique life experience, you're not providing something that they can't get from a dozen other people. But if you bring in everything that you are to that, there's nobody else that can deliver what you're delivering at that point.
Exactly. And this is something we did together, Dustin, and this is a great exercise I'm happy to share. But one good place to start is defining your tone of voice words. So choosing 3 words that you can filter all of your communications through. And these 3 words, they should be different from each other. Like, for example, someone like Gary Vee, he's warm, aggressive, and inspirational. The words warm and aggressive, you wouldn't really think go together.
Totally.
But then you watch Gary Vee, you go, of course, he's warm, aggressive, and inspirational. So you want to choose 3 words that are different from each other, that feel distinctly like they are you, and then use them to filter all of your communications. When you're creating content, when you're filming, you go, am I being warm enough? Am I being inspirational enough? Am I being aggressive enough? And then that's how you build a cohesive voice. That's a good place to start.
Very cool. And all of these things, I'm assuming it's really the kind of stuff that separates somebody from the pack and really helps them break out is developing some of this foundational stuff to their content, which is not necessarily the things that they're saying, but how they say it, what's at their core when they present information.
Exactly. And I think so many people don't realize that they can bring this to their content. They go, oh, I thought I had to be professional, or, you know, I'm a spirituality coach, so I thought that I had to be all, you know, zen and about it all. But those things that your instinct tells you that you probably shouldn't bring is what you should bring, because that's usually where the tension and the genius lies, if you can work that into your camera presence.
Is there any other high-level points that you'd like, particularly physicians who are interested in getting started on social media, to really take away from the conversation today?
I would like you to take away that I've worked with a lot of people, and I could guess that maybe you're sitting there going, oh, I don't have anything unique. I don't believe anything unique. I'm not really unique. Let me tell you that you are. And I don't know if that's in your perspective, in your background, in the way that you deliver information. I know that if I sat with you for 5 minutes, I'd be able to pinpoint exactly the thing that makes you unique. And so it takes a little bit of self-reflection. You might need to ask your family and your friends, but you will find that thing that makes you unique. And if you can lean into that, that's your magic. Where the tension is, the attention goes. So try and find the tension in your life, whatever that is, the tension about your brand, the tension about your category, and play with that tension, because the tension is where the good stuff is, always.
When you started on Instagram back in 2016, it was all photographs. Then everything has transitioned into video. Did you have any hesitation about putting yourself out there on video? How did you get over that hesitation?
Yeah, I think that is definitely a very intimidating aspect. And I've had so many derm colleagues, even in conferences, like who are like, I want to start, but like, I just can't get over this awkwardness, or like, I don't know how to film. And, you know, obviously I'm really excited that you're going to be there too, Dustin. We're going to kind of do this all over again in September, the Science of Skincare Summit, and talk about like the nitty gritty stuff. But I would say, I think for me, it was actually easier because it was something I had control over it. In the past, where I had to photograph, some of the photos like of me like posing, I had to get my husband out there. And so I feel so bad. Like his only day off in residency, he took out his Nikon camera to take photos of me. He's like, what is this girl, up to? And that was like me wanting to do fashion. But I think he really felt relieved. And for me too, I was like, I could do this on my own volition. Like I didn't have to wait on that Friday afternoon or Sunday when he had time off, when he was like feeling up for taking photos. Like it was definitely awkward. I mean, I think one thing for being in front of the camera, like whether it's photograph or video, if you're on social media, you kind of at some point have to get used to looking at yourself and feeling comfortable. And so in the beginning, I would tell like colleagues, like, even back then we would like point, like we wouldn't even talk. We would just point. It took me maybe 30 minutes to feel comfortable and says, okay, I liked my hair. I liked the way I smiled. And then I realized, honestly, the little nuances that I care about, the viewers probably didn't even notice or really didn't care for. And then the speaking part, that was actually the hardest for me because I look at Lindsay, like her contents are great, your contents are great, but you guys really are good at putting on content like to the point, succinct, people engaging and catchy, right? I'm not that type of person. So it really took me a long time to get comfortable in being able to speak in this way where it was attention grabbing and also not being overwhelming information, overloading people and just to the point. I think I'm finally, after doing this for like, 2-3 years now, I finally feel like I'm comfortable. I feel okay, good confident about the information that I film. And I do it, depending on what I talk about. I write a script first. I use like a teleprompter in the CapCut app. That makes it easy. But it took me like almost 2 years to feel comfortable with myself. And I think it's just something you just have to get over. Like, I just encourage people, like, just start doing it. If you don't like it, redo it. But like, don't worry so much because sometimes the things that you care about, people don't even notice. So I think once you start doing it, you'll just feel more comfortable. It's like practice. Same thing with YouTube too. Like when I first started filming, it would take me like 2-3 hours to film one video. Now I can do it probably about an hour depending on the content. And I always make sure I set myself up for success. So having done the research, writing the script, and then using some sort of app that allows me to read without looking like I'm reading type of thing. Before when we didn't have those apps, it was like you would like literally like read and memorize line by line, right? And then record. And that's what I used to do. But I would say just do what you feel comfortable doing. Get comfortable looking at yourself, speaking on camera. And then the more you do, I know it'll get better for sure.
For people who might not know, let's talk about hooks. Hooks are such an important part of your video creation and like your storytelling, as you said. Can you explain more about how you think about hooks, what hooks are to you?
So I will start this out by saying, and I hope if you're an influencer or a dermatologist listening, for the love of God, cut out the millennial pause. Like it is to me so cringe. And I know it's not your fault because I have the millennial pause. I just cut it out.
Wait, what is it?
It's whenever you're millennial and you start out a video and you take a breath. So say we're starting and I go, these are the 3 things you need to know. And so there's that like 1 second breath that we do innately as millennials. And I don't know why that is. Gen Z doesn't. They just hit start and they start talking. But for some reason, there's like this little glitch in our brains that we have to breathe before we start speaking. And that is 1 second of the 3 seconds that you have for a hook to catch someone's attention. So if you are wasting 1/3 of your time breathing, you're losing them. And
so I think that is the subject of, or the title of this podcast.
Yeah.
Don't waste.
Don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Stop the millennial pause.
But yeah, a hook is, they say that the first 3 seconds of a video will make or break your video. So that's when they decide whether or not they're going to watch the video, is those first 3 seconds. So you have to have a strong hook. And it could be either a verbal hook, it could be a text hook, or it can be a physical hook. So you can go in and like, I do a lot of verbal hooks. I'll say, hot girl hacks I refuse to gatekeep. And then you're like, oh, what secrets are the hot girls withholding from me? Like, I want to know what the hot girls are doing. Or this trend is really popular. These are 5 things I would never do as a board certified dermatologist. And I love that trend because that's just such a good example of a hook, because it's like, well, this person with this knowledge would never do these things. What is it? Because I don't want to do it. But then there's also the physical hooks where you'll see someone, and I have like a drink here, and they'll go like this. They'll be like, and this is a hook. Or they'll put lip gloss on. This is a hook. Those are hooks. That draws you in. I don't know why, but it does.
It's different than just having a talking head standing there.
Or you want to see them complete the process. A lot of people who are putting on makeup, you see them start with the concealer.
Exactly. That's a hook. So however you want to do it. And sometimes I try to do all 3 and I'm not coordinated enough. So I just kind of don't do the physical hook, I guess.
If you want to grow and keep an audience in social media, to show a little more of yourself, a little more of your talent. And what you said resonates with me, like medical school, residency. Like I was a creative person, an artistic person. And I feel like, and again, I'm a very animated and a very goofy person. And I feel like med school and especially residency, because, you're trying to get into dermatology, it's real hard. It's real competitive. And it's real easy for a really animated, outgoing, loud person like me to rub someone the wrong way. Okay. And so like, I felt like it beat all of that out of me. And that is another thing that I love about social media, allowed me to bring it back. But I do think it's important. It's unique because I do feel like social media has been around so long that people are starting to turn away a little bit from like the larger corporations, and they want to go more towards the individual, right? And that's why you'll see some people that like start these large companies, but their individual profile has more followers than their actual company. And so I do think that it's important because we want to be able to know who it is we're following. You want to be able to relate to them. It was Gary Vee said, like, he puts everything on his social, like, because there are a lot of people that literally follow him because he's a Jets fan. I just say go Jets, and all of a sudden everybody's a Jets fan. It's like, who is this guy? We're going to follow him. Like they had no entrepreneurial endeavors. They did not care. They didn't want to learn anything about business, but they liked how he talked. They liked what he said because he showed up as his authentic self. And oh yeah, by the way, he goes for our team. Like, heck yeah, we love this guy. And also I think that you inadvertently grant other people the permission to do that themselves when you do it, when you set that example yourself, which I think is another powerful thing that you can do.
You're giving permission. You're giving permission. What if there are other more extrovert, loud people studying dermatology and they're having similar thoughts and feelings that you are having, and that, you could make that impact even there?
For sure. So yeah, I do think that it's important that you share your passions because number one, it's going to show that you're a real human being. It's going to show a side of you that isn't just the niche, because that's what everybody's saying. Everybody's seeing the niche. Everybody's coming on, hi, we're going to talk about hair loss and we're going to talk about acne. It's like, well, everybody's talking about what differentiates you from everybody else, because people are going to want that information, but they're going to want to support someone that they like. They're going to want to support someone that is relatable to them. And so that's why I tell everybody, they're like, oh, well, it just seems like social media is so saturated. It's like, yeah, but you're the only you. Like, it might be saturated. That's why you bring your individuality into what you post, because you're always going to resonate with people. And I always tell people, everybody has an audience. The only thing that's going to stop you is your fear. Like, if you don't have that audience by 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, my mindset is it doesn't matter how long it takes. You will find your audience if you just keep going.
One thing I want to hit before we wrap up is kind of your approach to brand deals. Because you're so good at being authentic, I wondered if you could talk about how you evaluate brand deals to make sure that the content, the product, the message that a brand wants to get to your audience, that it remains true to what you do on social media. How do you evaluate brands?
Well, the first thing I would say is never be afraid to walk away if the brand doesn't align with your values. If the brand doesn't align with your values, do not be afraid to walk away. Because there will be some times I've had to walk away from brands because they said, oh, we want you to make this claim, this definitive claim. And it wasn't something that I truly believed. And they pushed me on. And I was just like, all right, obviously we've come to a crossroads. We've come to an impasse and we cannot move forward. The other thing I would say is, and I learned this early on, just because you love a brand and it's a good quality brand doesn't mean every product is going to be a good quality product. Because I will say that there is also one time, and this has shaped how I look at brand deals, but there was a time where there was a brand that I absolutely love, will not name it, but I loved them. And so I said, yeah, I'll do whatever with that product before. And this is a product I had never tried before. So I signed, I did it. And then afterwards, I realized it was not a great product. And I was really upset because I now attached my name to this product. And there's no quicker way to obliterate your credibility than by doing something like that. So when it comes to how I look at brand deals, there's a few things. Number one, do I know the product? And if I don't know the product, I now have them send me the product and I need to test the product. If there's a claim saying like, oh, this or this within weeks, I'll be testing that product for weeks before I'm willing to do this deal. That's first and foremost. So I always make sure that I know the product. I make sure that I align with whatever claims they want to say in the brief, right? And I definitely like to stay away from definitives. I also don't like if a brand wants you to say like, oh, say that this is your go-to or this is your number one. If it's not actually my go-to or my number one, if it is, then yeah, I'll say that. But if I'm saying that on every post, once again, I'm hurting my credibility. And just because a product isn't my go-to product doesn't mean it's not a great product. We also have to remember everybody's skin's a little bit different, right? Just like we have genetic variability, we have variability in our skin types. And so how something applies onto my skin and how the finish that it gives to my skin, it's not going to be the same as, say, the finish that it gives to Dr. Portel's skin or to your skin, maybe. And so that's why I'm okay with it. As long as it's a good product, yeah, I might not say this is my go-to, but I'm still okay endorsing it because it might be someone else's favorite product. The important thing is that it's a good quality product that's not going to destroy your skin barrier or lead to reactions. That's how I approach deals. I approach deals making sure that the brands understand that there are certain things I'm not going to be willing to say, certain claims I'm not going to be willing to make. And they also have to be okay with me saying no from time to time.
Very well said. I think that's solid advice for anybody listening, wherever you're at on your creator journey. So many pearls to pick up from this episode. And just get started. Bring your real self there and enjoy the journey.
Exactly. And just be able to say no. It's like, everybody's like, oh, well, but they're going to pay me. It's like, yeah, but is that check worth your credibility? Like, is it worth your integrity? And for some of you, you might say yes.
I'm so curious to know about your process for content and how you come up with your ideas. Is it from patients? Is it from being in office? Is it misinformation? What fuels your content?
So my favorite ideas and that I feel like do really well are actually from office. And I've really struggled in the last probably 8 months finding time to film in the office. But throughout the day, I'll have it's always in threes, 3 patients back to back who are like, I don't do tretinoin in the summer because I don't want to be out in the sun. But I'm like, oh, that is not how it works. So I'll collect those little things and I keep it, I have a notes, like the notes app in my phone. I'll keep a tab on there of running topic ideas and then I'll batch film. But I do think there's something about watching the trends. And I used to spend, I'm embarrassed to say, 4 hours a day just scrolling, and I would call it market research. And, you favor that, you save the videos that you want to stitch later. And then come content creation day, you kind of have an outline of what all you're going to film. But I don't have time with kids' schedules and work and everything. There's just no time to do that very much. So I kind of make notes on the go and I don't consume the content as much as I used to.
Do you batch film? Do you set aside specific time to film?
I always batch. Sadly, it ends up being Sunday right now. I'm hoping to shift that to Friday just because you go to work and I never come home from work. I go to a game and then I come home at 8 or 9 at night. So my days are 12 to 14 hour days. I am never home sooner than 12 hours. And that's on a good day. So I have to film on either weekends or sometimes on Monday. But then kids have sporting events on weekends all the time, unless it's a holiday.
And when you batch film, how many pieces of content would you film at a time?
I think I just hit my record last Sunday. I did 3 long form YouTube. Now 2 were medical diagnoses. So these are quick. So I did KP or SepDerm. And then a longer one, which is a skincare. So I did 3 YouTubes, which is a lot. YouTube takes me a lot. I have to prep. I have to actually write out concept because I have a lot of squirrel moments and I just go off. So it has to be written out. Next thing to talk about is. But I think I do anywhere from 5 or 6 to 10 shorts and 1 to 2 YouTubes.
And how long are your YouTubes usually?
Anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. It just depends. The skincare ones end up being upper 20 minutes. But we're talking all day. I get up on Sunday, do my hair. And then it's an all day project, 8 to 10 hours.
And what does the editing process look like? Are you handing that off to somebody? Do you have a process after filming to help ease up your time?
I just found somebody, and we all, if you don't, you will at some point get these emails from people whose English isn't amazing, but they're just willing to help. And those videos kind of all look the same, and I prefer to edit myself. I just don't have the time. And, a smart person, I don't know if this was a book or a podcast, but years ago, I was so focused on efficiency. And I learned somewhere that if somebody else can get it done 70% as well as you would, you delegate. you just delegate.
A media kit is something you don't think about usually until you need it. And that was the case for me, where I was starting to grow a following and I had worked one-on-one with a brand, CeraVe actually, who knew that they wanted me to do something in particular. And they asked, what I might charge for that. I had never even thought about that question. But then it was the second partnership where they asked if I could send them my media kit. And I did not even know what that was. So this is something that when you're an unintentional content creator like I was, this is not top of mind. And so I think that was probably at the point where I reached out to you and said, hey, I need a little help here. What is a media kit? And do you make those? Do you have a graphic designer? I don't know what this is. So a media kit is essentially a pitch deck for you as a creator, where when a brand reaches out, you are showcasing the work that you've done. You're trying to put your best foot forward and give the type of information that a brand would want to see, so that you don't have to answer these questions individually every time a brand reaches out.
Yes, there's an amazing efficiency that helps you and the brand see if you're a fit to work together, whether your content is what they're looking for, whether it's the demographics they're looking for. Do you resonate with their target audience? And how can they assess your potential? The other thing sometimes too is they can actually have a quick glance to see, do you fit in within their budget? Some people put their rates inside of a media kit, some people don't. The other thing that a media kit does, it helps answer brands' questions in advance. So as Dustin was saying, you don't have to go back and forth. It also helps you stand out from the rest. Maybe you have a strong branding. Maybe you have really incredible information that you want to share. And it also shows that you're serious about collaboration. Let's talk about that time, Dustin, if you remember, when we created your media kit back in the day now. And let's talk about how it's helped you in general.
The media kit has been hugely helpful in my journey as a creator because it immediately helps brands to recognize if we're going to be a good fit or not. And we do choose to include rates on the media kit because it's always going to be a question. And there's certain brands who may automatically select out because of that, or may jump right in because of that. So it's just going to save time for one. And two, as you mentioned, it does help you stand out. So when you have a brand reach out and they're maybe just dipping their toes into the water with social media influencers, they could be impressed to see that you've worked with a Sephora and a CeraVe and a La Roche-Posay, and that you've done a commercial, and you get the chance to showcase that kind of stuff. You get to essentially answer questions that the brand may not even know that they should be asking. And so you get to show them the great things that you've done and kind of influence the brands who are trying to get you for your influence. And so on my media kit, we have a lot of the brands that I've worked with and some notable campaigns that I've been a part of, things like the CeraVe soap opera and an appearance on The Talk daytime TV show. And then we also go over the analytics for each of the major platforms. So the brands always want to know, and we update this on a monthly basis for new follower counts, the demographics of those followers, where they live, male versus female, the age ranges, because then that helps the brand to know if they have a product, who are they interested in getting that product in front of, and do your followers match the demographic of who they're looking for? So that's going to answer a question for them right away. And then, of course, budget, because I am a full-time physician, I run a practice, I have a family. And so when I'm going to be doing work for somebody, I want to be fairly compensated for that, for the time that it takes me and the influence that I have the potential to have. And a brand may decide that they don't have a budget for that. They can decide, you know what, maybe we'll come back to you in 6 months or 12 months when we have a bigger budget. Or they may decide, all right, well, we wanted 5 TikTok videos, but maybe let's just do 2 TikTok videos or something like that. So it just helps to answer a lot of questions and eliminate a lot of back and forth for either me as a content creator or my team. Now, Saeed, before we wrap up, I do want to get kind of taking this and distilling it down to our audience of healthcare professionals. And what are some, key tips or tricks or ideas that they can use as they look to build their own branding when they're just getting started on social media?
I don't know if I can say one thing, but I have a few things. First of all, I would say make sure you know what you stand for and what it is that you really want. Because wanting and really wanting are 2 distinct factors. And really wanting requires fire, okay? You need that fire to get you to where you want to go. I would say also get ready to invest a lot of time and then eventually money. But the first thing is definitely time. We didn't talk about this, but earlier when this whole setting your brand up and the education and the building of the community, that's free time. Like you're giving this to people because the return is going to be greater later on, but you got to be ready to invest a lot of the time. And then a couple of qualities like be yourself. Do not copy paste or think that you need to do it because somebody else is doing it. I think that's the biggest mistake in some brands that come out there. Be consistent. So this is key to really building credibility. It's all about the pattern. So after a while, you look back and be like, oh yeah, I have been talking about this in different ways because as we just said, reskinning something over and over and finding different hooks to say the same thing are critical, but be consistent. And then honestly, don't give up. It's only going to get harder, but then the harder it gets, the sweeter the reward is, at the end of the day. That doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you sold the brand or the brand's bringing in billions, but like you're actually making a difference in somebody's life, or you've captured an audience that wasn't represented or wasn't served before. So the reward comes in various ways. Definitely don't give up because it will get hard, but it does feel better.
There's two things. One is definitely being true to who you are and not following trends in a way. Like, don't follow trends in terms of like dancing and doing what people do. But there are some trends. Like yesterday, I put a post up of walking and saying things I'm not falling for. So it's just a video of me walking, and then you put on the screen like 5 things you're not falling for. So that's a trend in terms of something that is popular where you can make a point, but the points I make are not trendy. So there's one thing to be trendy, and there's another thing to follow an algorithm trend. So follow the algorithm trend a little bit at least, but don't be trendy where you just say what everyone else is saying. And then the repetition is so important. I do video after video of showing where I inject for different ages, and those are the most popular. And I talk over and over again about forehead muscle and movement, but I say it a little bit differently every time. And I learn from doing it. I learn from when I say it one way, I get better at saying it. The more you do it, there's a reason why we don't have 5 million followers from day one. You're not ready for it. You have to make all those mistakes. You have to stumble. You have to make lousy content and then keep doing it and get better and better at it. And the building comes from repetition, persistence, having a story, having something to say, and following those trends. But the easiest thing is to come up with content, because anything that's in your head is good content.